Hi there. Yeah, today we're going to have a look at some of the slightly hidden options and settings in ArcGIS Pro, which I've found a lot of people aren't really aware that they exist, and they can really help streamline your operations with the software. And just to let you know, we're actually using version 3.1.2 for this video. I'll just show you quickly. There you go, 3.1.2. So the most up-to-date version as of August 2023. And we've just got some data on the screen just for the purposes of the exercise, but actually we won't really be doing anything with the data as such. And the first thing to note here is that I'm working on British National Grid. That's just because I'm based in the UK and it's the most convenient coordinate system for me to use. And the first thing that I suppose is a slight bugbear for me using ArcGIS Pro is the fact that the coordinate readout at the bottom of the screen there is always defaulting to decimal degrees. And as you're probably aware, you can actually change that just by clicking on the little drop down next to it, and we can switch that to meters. So we've got our eastings and northings position. But I want to have a look at maybe how we can set that within the project as a whole. So if I open up a new map window, then it will also be reading out in meters and some other settings as well. So what we're going to look at first of all is this quick access toolbar. So at the top of your screen on the left hand side there, you'll see some buttons that you might use for saving a project or undoing an action. And there's a few other tools that you may find useful to add in there, particularly if you're using GIS on a laptop without a mouse. If you're struggling with a trackpad and trying to zoom in and zoom out and things like that, it's actually quite awkward. And what I've found is you can add some of the tools that if you're, for example, an ArcMap user that's switched into ArcGIS Pro, some of the tools that you would have taken for granted, such as zoom in by drawing a rectangle. So to get at these tools, you want to check on that drop down and you'll see it says customize quick access toolbar. So if we click on there, these are the currently visible tools. Below that, you'll see there's a couple of others, rectangle zoom in being one of them. So if you wanted to activate rectangle zoom in, all you got to do is click on it. And now we can use that behavior whereby you pick up the tool and you draw a little box over where you want to go. So to add additional tools that maybe aren't on that list, what we do is go to the same location and click More Commands. Okay, so all the commands in the software pretty much are available to make into a quick access tool, but obviously most of them are already on the interface accessible to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a couple that I've personally find useful. And instead of popular commands, what we're going to do is just list all the commands in this drop down at the top. And you can do a search here. So the first search I'm going to do is, it's going to be rectangle zoom again, but it's going to be rectangle zoom out. So if we type in rectangle in the search box, you can see there's a rectangle zoom out in addition to a rectangle zoom in. So I'm going to click on that and add it into my list of quick access tools. And then I'm also going to go for the tools button. Let me just show you why I want to put that as a quick access tool. So I'll click OK to that, and you should see my quick access tools are now visible at the top here. It's just added in the rectangle zoom out, so we can kind of accelerate the zooming out process as well as the zooming in process. But the other tool I was going to add is basically a shortcut to activate the geoprocessing tools. At the moment, if you want to do any geoprocessing tasks, you've got to click on analysis and then you've got to click on tools. And it's a small thing, but I find it a bit annoying that I can't just open up that pane straight away for the geoprocessing pane. So we're going to add in to the geoprocessing toolbar more commands. And I'll look for all commands just because I'm not sure whether it's in the most recently used ones or not. And down there you'll see tools, open geoprocessing pane. in about 3 times actually, but I think it does the same thing, whichever one you use. So we're going to add it in like so. Click OK. So now it doesn't matter what tab I've got active. If I decide I need to run a geoprocessing tool, like, I don't know, buffer or something like that, then all we've got to do is click that little button and it automatically then opens up my geoprocessing, and I can then go in and find the tool that I need. Okay. The other things I thought worth looking at quickly here are just more general options for the software, which again I've found useful in my time working with it. So if we again go to where you would go to customize quick access toolbar, and you can click there on whoops, that was the wrong button. Let's not show that below the ribbon. I don't like it there. We click on more commands. And you can see once you've got the this open, it's actually the overall options window you've got there. It's not just the quick access toolbar window. So if you go right to the top, you'll see there's some settings just for the current project. And then there's general application settings. So for the current project, what I would like to do is for the units, this is going back to what we've got down below the screen here. I'd like my my location units to default to meters, not decimal degrees. So we can go in there and tick that. So this means that any new map window that you create within this project only, it will now be showing in meters as opposed to degrees. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a general setting to make that the default for every single project. So you just have to remember to do that at the beginning of your project, and then you're good to go. So we'll click OK to that. You might also want to do distance units, make sure they're in meters or whatever you feel appropriate. The other ones, let's just go back into that one more time. The other ones are more in the application settings. So for example, you have things under general options to do with what happens when you start a new project. And one of the things I found when I first sort of switched from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro is I ended up with geodatabases and folders and all sorts of stuff all over the place, because what happens by default is it creates a new geodatabase and a new folder every time you create a project, and it gets a little bit messy. It doesn't have the old method of creating stuff within a default geodatabase, but you can revert to that behavior if you wish. So if we go to the general options and where it says create projects, you can see that I've now switched this thing so it creates a new, or it uses the same default geodatabase for all projects. It doesn't create a new geodatabase for every single project, and it doesn't create a new toolbox for every single project. So we're using the same default geodatabase, the same default toolbox, which is just under the ArcGIS folder under my documents. And then for project location, again, I think probably worth just leaving it as creating a new project in a default location. But if you wanted to put it in a very specific place, then by all means change that around. A little further down under map and scene, I've determined a custom base map for all of my ArcGIS Pro projects. The default is usually to use the default base map for the whole organization. And to be honest with you, that's probably the best setting. So what that means is in your ArcGIS Online settings, someone has determined the default base map for everyone to use. But you can override that if you wish. A little further down, newly added layers will be visible by default. Well, that's kind of normal, but just in case you ever wanted to change it. And there's a few other things like the default spatial reference. So whereas I think ArcMap always used the spatial reference, the first layer that you added, here you can choose between that or actually determining a default spatial reference for every single map that you open. So in my case, I've got it set to be always on British National Grid, no matter what I add in, and it will automatically transform the coordinate systems as long as you've got that tick down there. Under editing, so again in the general application settings here, under the editing settings, what you've got here are all sorts of ways of changing the sort of behavior of the editing tools. And the one I find particularly useful here is the automatic save edits function. Again, ArcMap users will tell you all sorts of tales of pain and anguish over having spent hours editing layers and forgetting to save edits and then having to redo all your work when it crashed. So in this instance, you can have it to automatically save edits every 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes, or after a certain number of edit operations, which I must admit I've found to be quite a valuable setting. So I would definitely recommend doing that. And then I think down here, just you can have it automatically save edits when you save your project. Perhaps not necessary because you're already doing it up here. Make newly edited layers editable by default. Again, you can alter that setting if you wish. And then all of those changes that you might make. And again, I would recommend exploring all of these settings to see if there's anything else that you're kind of interested in. Once you click OK, they're now your default settings for all of your work within the software. Okay, hope that's been of some use. Feel free to leave comments. Be very interested to see what you think.